In this video, I'm going to cover some big spoilers for Ridley Scott's 2024 film Gladiator II. There's some big reasons why I didn't really like this film. If you want a non-spoiler review or my overall thoughts on the film in a more general way, you can click on the card above. By now, you're probably sick of hearing every single person talking about this movie, making some kind of joke about whether they were entertained or not. Look, I was entertained at certain moments. There was some spectacle, but it just wasn't really enough to make me like this movie overall. In general, I think Gladiator II just doesn't compare to its original predecessor, but it actually invites you to constantly keep making that comparison because of how much it references the previous film. But worst of all, the biggest crime here is that I think it actively undermines the previous film, which is something I really hate. So one of the big reveals in the trailers for the film is that Lucius, played by Paul Mescal, or Mescal, however you say it, is actually the son of Maximus and Lucilla. I'd sort of not really clocked this while watching the trailers, and the movie does a bit of a sort of botched job revealing this. I don't think it's treated the way it should be, but when I found this out, guys, I just hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate this narrative choice. Now, I know hate is a very strong word, but please hear me out, guys. It's such a complete rewrite of the original film. I hate this idea because in the original Gladiator, Maximus, played by Russell Crowe, is so dedicated to the memory and spirit of his dead wife and son. The one thing I actually don't really like about the original film is the sprinkle of romance between Maximus and Lucilla. In the end, it is just a kiss, and you can argue that the bargain that he makes with Lucilla in that scene is part of his downfall. And the way I saw it, it's almost like retribution from the gods for disrespecting the wife of his memory of his son, kissing Lucilla, making a bargain with her. All of that ultimately leads to Maximus's downfall and his death. He does get his revenge, but there's a cost. Because the whole time that scene was going on in the first Gladiator movie, I was thinking, man, his wife up in heaven, she's not going to be happy about this. She's looking down on him, necking on with this other woman. She's not going to be happy. Mate, when he finally gets to that cornfield and meets her, she's going to be like, bro, why were you just kissing that other woman down there? What are you doing, mate? But now we find out that Maximus and Lucilla actually had a kid together as well? Yes, I can understand you might be saying, well, it's not such a big deal. It was a past romance with Lucilla. Maximus must have had the kid with her before he met his current wife. Except, bro, they are like the same age in the first Gladiator movie. So was Maximus just cheating with his wife when he had the kid with Lucilla? I mean, what is going on there? Because if that's the case, it just completely muddies the whole love story, which turns into the revenge story, which is the whole core of the first film. And I don't think that you can convince me that that was intentional in the first movie. I really hate it when a sequel goes and retcons good parts of the previous movie, especially when the previous movie is a masterpiece like this. I really feel like that whole reveal and plot element just really wrecks some parts of Gladiator. I'm just gonna try and retcon this whole movie out of my head. And on top of that, it's explained in the first half of Gladiator II that Lucilla sent Lucius away right after Maximus died because bad people are gonna come for him. He's the heir to the throne, right? So surely you would be rich enough to pay for some bodyguards to protect him from whoever's gonna try and come and get him. Or if for some reason you do have to send him away, surely you would send him with a few bodyguards. Again, they're a rich family, aren't they not? They're royals. Surely you send him with a few bodyguards who are going to go and report back to Lucilla about how Lucius is going. And even if that did happen and she still lost track of Lucius, surely she would send someone to go and find him or try and confirm whether he's still alive or not. Not just give up and assume that he's lost and not be sure whether he's alive or not. It's like she kind of forgot about her own kid, which is, yeah, it's a bit weird. And in the meantime, it's never explained how these psycho twins got into power. They don't seem very intelligent or cunning in their screen time. They just seem pretty vain and, to be honest, a bit stupid. So how did that happen? So all that stuff, it doesn't make sense. It really annoys me because, yeah, I think it undermines the first Gladiator movie. But now I'm going to go into some more specific nitpicks about the plot and a few things that happen in Gladiator 2. They're not as big as what I just spoke about, but they still were things that I felt like took me out of the immersion of the movie. So in the Gladiator boat fight scene, which everyone was talking about when the first trailer dropped, when they fill the Colosseum with water and sharks, that scene takes place around the middle to the second half of the movie. So Lucius orders all the gladiators on his boat to first maneuver it so it goes side by side with the other boat. They break all of its oars and then they turn around and ram it from the side. It sounds fair enough on paper, right? The only problem is the other boat is full of archers, and when they go side on with it, they're shooting at them point blank range. Look, maybe I missed something in the scene, but these archers, they've got worse aim than stormtroopers. They're literally like 5 meters away from the other boat, and they can't hit these guys. I guess their boat's been shaken up a little bit, but surely you can hit someone from that close range. So yeah, it doesn't really feel that believable that Lucius and all the other guys survived that strategy. I think you maybe see 1 or 2 of the gladiators on Lucius's boat get hit with an arrow, but surely it would be more. In the film's climax, Maximus, played by Denzel Washington, has killed one of the emperors and gained favor with the other one. Lucilla's plot has been uncovered, and both her and Lucius are sent to the arena to be executed by the Praetorian Guard. But unknown to the Praetorian Guard, all the gladiators below the arena have rebelled against their guards, and they're ready to come to the aid of Lucius. A big fight ensues where my boy, Senator Gracchus, gets murdered. He gets done so dirty like he's just nothing. Rip. But more importantly, Lucius, he goes and defeats some soldiers, and then he's in the process of freeing Lucilla when Maximus goes and shoots an arrow which kills Lucilla. Maximus then runs away to go and take control of the Praetorian Guard, I guess, and doesn't shoot another arrow at Lucius? It makes no sense why Maximus doesn't at least take a shot at Lucius, because at this point in the film, he knows that Lucius is the heir to the throne and probably the biggest threat to Maximus's rise to power. So why doesn't he kill him? He had a clean shot at him, but instead he chooses to kill Lucilla, who's still tied up. It's complete chaos in the arena. Why doesn't he kill Lucius? It just doesn't make sense. And in all seriousness, please, can someone justify this in the comments? I guess maybe you could say the whole moment was a blur. You know, Maximus, he's just acting just out of thought, out of instinct. He just shoots an arrow. Maybe he was meaning to hit Lucius and accidentally hit Lucilla, but I don't really buy that. It seemed very intentional to me that he hit Lucilla first and then he just kind of looks at Lucius and then goes away. Okay, and for the finale of the movie, Lucius, he goes and takes control of a bunch of troops that were loyal to Marcus Acacius. For those who are watching this but haven't seen the movie, Marcus Acacius is the general who's played by Pedro Pascal. So Marcus Acacius, he tries to overthrow the emperors. They figure out his plot. They then put him in the arena with Lucius. Marcus has a chat to Lucius in the arena and they realize that, hey, actually both of us hate how Rome has become too. We both don't like the two emperors. Lucius refuses to kill Marcus Acacius, so the emperors order the Praetorian Guard to shoot him instead, and he dies. So in the climax of the film, Lucius has a bunch of Marcus's old troops ready to fight for him, and Maximus has the whole Praetorian Guard who are gonna fight for him. But instead of getting a big epic battle at the end, Maximus jumps off his horse and decides to 1v1 Lucius. This is a bit of a baffling character decision because Maximus has watched how good of a fighter Lucius is this whole movie, but somehow thinks he's a chance to beat him in a one-on-one. There's also another moment where he seems to be actually winning this 1v1. He pushes Lucius into the river, who's a bit knocked around. He has the high ground.
I have the high ground! You underestimate my power!
But instead, he chooses to give up the high ground, jump into the river with Lucius. He tries to drown him. He also tries to stab him with his sword, but he can't stab Lucius because Lucius is wearing Maximus's old armor. Lucius bashes Maximus on the head with a rock, cuts off his hand, which is brutal, stabs him, and then gets up and tells all the armies, hey guys, let's not fight anymore. Everyone cheers, and that's the end of the movie. Look, the duel itself, even though maybe it has a few strange decisions, it's still pretty epic. Maximus getting his hand cut off, man, that was brutal, and that is something that will stick with me for quite a long time after watching this. I don't mind that for an ending in terms of spectacle, but again, when you think really hard about it, it doesn't really make sense. Again, I don't know why Maximus thought it was such a good idea to 1v1 Lucius when he's seen what a good fighter he is. You know, couldn't he have just ridden off on his horse, gone and joined his other soldiers, and then they've had a big battle and that kind of decides it? I guess maybe Lucius was blocking the road. I think maybe that's what it was, so Maximus couldn't go past him without fighting him. But again, it just begs the question, why didn't he kill Lucius in the arena when he had the chance? He had a clean shot. I don't know, maybe he only had one arrow, but he had the chance to kill the biggest threat against him and he didn't take it, and it ended up getting him in this situation. And also, couldn't Maximus and Lucius talk things out? I mean, I think they both hated what Rome had become. I think Maximus differs a bit in that he thinks Rome needs to be destroyed, whereas Lucius believes in the dream of Rome. But again, couldn't they have talked things out? Maybe Maximus was too obsessed with his own power, but again, I thought he kind of hated Rome. He wants to destroy it. Again, maybe he wants to be the one to do it, but yeah, it doesn't feel like a satisfying narrative conclusion because it's just kind of really muddy and a bit confused, and you sort of do sympathize a bit with Maximus, so it doesn't really feel super cathartic when Lucius wins because I think we've seen enough evidence that the dream of Rome, I'm not sure if it really exists. This movie points out what a kind of nasty place Rome can be and the nasty things that it does, so it's a bit hard to take Lucius's side on this. I mean, he's seen that as well, so surely he could have broken bread with Maximus. They could have talked things out like bros. Surely. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I didn't want to dislike this film, but those plot holes, they just stick out a bit to me. And that whole narrative choice about Lucius actually being Maximus's son, I really dislike that. It kind of reminds me a bit of Rey turning out to be a Skywalker, and it just feels really on the nose to me. And you go through all of that, and then you think, wait a second, wasn't this a revenge film about Lucius and his dead wife? Because he kind of forgot about her once he had a chat with Pedro Pascal in the arena. He's not really sad about it anymore, and it's kind of forgotten a bit by the movie. It just doesn't really feel like a proper refined character arc. There's a cool scene with the sunset at the end and it's a little bit emotional, but again, it just doesn't really feel that earned because the whole plot threads have just been really sort of confused and muddled, what it felt like, at least to me, throughout the whole film. Man, you know what? Talking about all of this, it just makes me want to go back and watch the original Gladiator film because it's just so good. It is so good. Or you want to know what the biggest tragedy about all this is? I think Ridley Scott's last two recent films, Napoleon and this, I don't think they've been very good. But in my opinion, one of his best films that he's ever made, The Last Duel, came out in 2021 and pretty much no one's seen it or knows anything about it. I think it's miles better than Gladiator II. It had the worst opening weekend of Ridley Scott's career, but it's got a huge cast. It's got Matt Damon, Adam Driver, and I genuinely think that it's a great movie. It's really epic. It's gritty. Please, guys, if you have a chance, whether you liked Gladiator 2 or you didn't like it, please consider going and checking out The Last Duel. And yep, that's the movie where Ridley Scott famously came out and blamed young people and their phones for the reason why the movie wasn't successful at the box office. When really, I think a much more reasonable take on why that movie wasn't successful was because it came out at the tail end of COVID, and the demographic that it was aimed towards, they weren't really going to cinemas back then. But that being said, I think that whole reason about younger people, everyone getting addicted to their phones, skibbity, Riz, all that stuff, I do think that is a bit of a reason why these movies have been struggling a lot, and I do think that's pretty sad because I think they are really worth going and checking out in cinemas. People's attention spans are getting shorter, but I think movies, they still have so much to offer. Even if you don't like them, you can still get something out of it with understanding a bit more what your taste is. Go and log it on Letterboxd, enjoy that satisfying histogram. But yeah, on my channel here, I'm trying to build and encourage a passion towards cinema, build that community of people that love going to the movies. So if you did like this review or you did like the sound of that, please consider subscribing. I've got some big things planned, including trying to go and visit every cinema in Australia. That's my big project on the horizon. And guys, I'll always try and be honest with you. I think it's important that a critic is actually critical when they don't like a film. But at the same time, if I don't like a movie, or if I do, I will always tell you. And also, I like to think that I can provide you with a bunch of different movie recommendations that might get you interested in a movie that you might end up really loving. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought of Gladiator 2, and I'll see you in the next one.